I would like to take a moment before we get into today's main episode and to talk about my sponsor for the podcast. Podmatch is a new podcasting site dedicated to all podcasters. The platform helps hosts get connected with potential guests to appear on their show, as well as allow guests to find podcasts that will give them a chance to share their story. Podmatch offers many tools to help organize your page, from to-do lists to episode planning to potentially appearing on a leaderboard. Podmatch has it all. The best part, you have the potential to get paid. And who doesn't like to get paid from home? I like to. With an easy sign up, you can start connecting with podcasters and guests immediately. I have been a part of Podmatch since the beginning of May, and I have got to say that it was the best decision I've ever made because Podmatch helps your podcast grow. It helps you get connected with people that have very interesting, very compelling background stories that are just waiting for their story to be shared. So if you are a host or guest and would like to start building professional relationships, explore more opportunities, and have your story shared, I highly suggest that you sign up with Podmatch today by going to joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to start expanding your network in seconds. I would like to give another huge thank you to Podmatch for sponsoring this episode. Now on to our main episode, and again, you can sign up at joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to begin your podcasting journey today. Hello everyone, welcome to the Lethal Venom Podcast. This is a show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth no lies told. And today I'm joined by a very special guest. I'm joined by Ms. Adriene Caldwell. She is an author and is the author of a book called Unbroken, which talks about past traumas that she has dealt with in her life, and as well as bringing um, um, a world unwilling to play savior. She wants to try to bring tough conversations to life, and she wants to speak about her truth and would like feel free to share what her experiences with other people. And so I am more than welcome to give a huge welcome to Miss Adrienne. Thank you so much for coming on to the show, and I cannot wait for our conversation today.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your show, Noah. I appreciate it. And yes, I am the author of Unbroken, Life Outside the Lines. It's the story of my life from early childhood to early 20s. And during this time, I was either the witness to or the victim of the sexual assault of a young girl, the drowning death of another child, emotional and physical abuse, extreme poverty, mental illness, homelessness, horrifically abusive foster care, bulimia, drug and alcohol addiction, pedophilia, death, suicide, and even incest. So, kind of a lot to unpack there. But Noah, out of that list, is there something that jumps out at you that you'd like me to share my story?
Yeah, absolutely. And to my listeners, I usually don't do trigger warnings during the episode. I always do include them in the description box. But if all these triggers that she mentioned, not all of them are going to be mentioned, but I am going to be picking some. So whatever I do pick, there's a huge content warning. If anything is triggering to you guys, I want to give a huge, just like a red flag right now to let you be prepared. So, um, the thing that you had mentioned about foster care is
Mhm.
something that, you don't really hear troubling stories from that. Of course, it's for kids, it's hard to get adopted sometimes.
Mhm.
However, I've never really heard of abuse. So could you tell me a little bit about your foster care experience and what you witnessed when you were in foster care?
Sure, absolutely. So, little bit of background. My mother was schizophrenic and physically abusive. And my brother and my mother ended up relinquishing her rights. She wanted us to go to my best friend's family. They were a nice upper middle class family. They ended up keeping my brother and getting rid of me. They sent me to live with my aunt and uncle. That didn't work out. And so my brother and I had been in foster care for about 2 months while my best friend's family, while they were getting interviewed and home inspections and all the hoopla and paperwork that goes along with placing children. So it wasn't going really great at my aunt and uncle's house, and I asked to be placed in a foster home. And my social worker told me that there were no regular foster homes, that the only way for me to be in a home would be for me to go to a quote unquote therapeutic foster home. And what that means is that the the children, the wards of the state, as I was, are have higher needs, more emotional damage or psychological damage. Um, and that also equates to a much higher paycheck for the foster parent. Now, I will say this. My schizophrenic mother, who beat me regularly, shoes, hangers, dog leashes. The last beating I took from her was with a wooden dowel rod, that thing in your closet that you hang your clothes on. That was the what she used to beat me for the last beating. And I have never, not once, had a nightmare about my mother. But the foster mother, this woman who I refuse to even give her a name, her official name is the bitch from hell, TBFH. And that's how I refer to her in my book. I have had nightmares and wake up crying because of this woman and about this woman as recently as a year ago. So she is still traumatizing and affecting my life. Now, um, many foster parents do this as a profession. They don't have any other skills. And taking in foster children, they take in as many as they can. And it's about the paycheck for them. And that's not necessarily wrong as long as you treat the children correctly, as long as you're not abusing them. But this woman scarred me permanently. Now, I want to explain the the organization and how it was set up, and it will help you understand how such abuse was allowed. So TBFH, the bitch from hell, she didn't work directly for the state of Texas or for Children's Protective Services. She worked for a company called, they hired her and supposedly trained her for therapy and counseling and how to handle children with higher emotional needs, which frankly, I did have higher emotional needs. I had gone through abandonment, rejection, abuse, just a wide gamut of psychological, emotional, physical abuse. So she worked for Mentor Youth and they contracted with the state of Texas. So that right there is a gap in oversight. So state of Texas, CPS, um, contracted with this company, and then this company hired the foster parents. So that right there is an opportunity for oversight. And I don't mean oversight as in they're watching or monitoring. I mean oversight as in they were missing things. And that gap is what allowed it. So, um, TBFH did not treat us like we were humans. We were subhuman in that home. And there were usually 4 to 6 foster girls at a time. There were two sets of bunk beds in the master bedroom, and we had a sink and a toilet attached to our room. Now, the foster mother, TBFH, she had a 22-year-old daughter who lived with her, who had a daughter herself, so there was a 3-year-old grandchild, and TBFH also had a 16-year-old daughter. Now, I never, not once, saw either of them clean anything at all. We were slave labor, and I am completely fine with chores. I used to clean my aunt's beauty shop, fourth grade. And while I was living with TBFH, my aunt would come and get me every other weekend. And I would clean the beauty shop. So I was used to chores and cleaning, but what she did was beyond that. She taught us how to paint, and I painted the entire inside and outside of her house. So I was on a 15-foot ladder in summer, middle of summer in Houston, painting the outside of her garage. Now, when I say we were subhuman to them, that's how they ingrained our inferiority into us, in so many ways. First, the bathroom. There was one full bathroom, so it had a sink, a toilet, and a shower. The foster children were allowed 10 minutes from the time the door closed to the time the door opened. And the last foster girl to shower had to clean the tub with Comet. It's a bleach powder that you use for cleaning. And her family, she said it was to protect her granddaughter. She didn't want to take the chance that her granddaughter was going to bathe in a dirty tub. But it didn't matter who from her family was going to shower next. The last foster girl had to clean the tub. And when we were in that bathroom, that single full bathroom, we were not allowed to use their toilet. Absolutely not. Never allowed to use their toilet. And we, the foster girls, were forced to sit on the floor. We were not allowed to sit on the furniture in the living room or the dining room. We sat on the floor like animals. And when it came time for food, not only did we have separate dishes and utensils, but we ate different food from them. They would have steak and avocado and nice meals, and we would get tuna casserole and hamburger helper and stuff that was just very, very cheap. And even ketchup. They would get Heinz ketchup and we would get the generic. So they treated us, and when we ate, we didn't sit at the table with them. We were relegated to the laundry room. We were pushed out of the home as much as possible. So YMCA does youth programs during the summer, and she would drop us off there. And it was basically some crappy park where they give you, a juice and a cookie, and you basically are just outside doing nothing at this YMCA program. And it was just to get rid of the foster kids, and she did that as much as possible. So, um, one time I was trying on a swimsuit and I came out to show her, and she looked at me and she said, "Your thighs are fat. I'm surprised you haven't started throwing up to lose weight." And that comment, that had never even occurred to me. I didn't even know what that was. But that comment has spanned a 30 plus year battle with bulimia. I still struggle with it to this day. And when I was diagnosed with dysthymia, it's the precursor to major depressive disorder. And around the age of 15, the psychiatrist said that I should probably start taking medication, that my depression had worsened um, on my service plan. Each foster girl had a service plan, items that they were working on to try to overcome. Mine was depression, anxiety, and obsessive compulsive disorder. I was very obsessive with schoolwork because school was my escape mechanism. It's how I mentally got out of my surroundings. I involved myself so deeply in homework and schoolwork and reading, anything to just escape my environment. And that's something I did my entire life. But when I was told that I needed medication, in my mind, I thought that meant that I was defective and and inferior. And I went home to TBFH's house and I took my razor apart and I slit my wrists. Now, it wasn't deep, it wasn't life-threatening, but when TBFH saw it, she didn't ask if I was okay. She wasn't concerned about my well-being. She criticized me for not doing it properly. She said, "You're supposed to slit along the vein, not across." That's what she told me. So, Um, that was my experience with her, and I was actually very lucky because my aunt would come and get me every other weekend, and then the family that adopted my brother, they would come and get me once a month. So I only had to spend one weekend a month with her. Um, but yeah, it was hell. And I was so desperate to get out of there that I was taking introductory German. Um, one of the guy I had a crush on. I had taken French since sixth grade, and he started making fun of me. He's like, "Oh, French, blah blah blah. German's so much better." So I decided to take German my 10th grade year in high school. And the teacher handed out applications for scholarships to do a 1 year foreign exchange to Germany. And it's a scholarship that's paid for by the US Congress and the German Bundestag, the German Congress. So it's kind of like an ambassador program that they have. And I was so desperate to get out of TBFH's home that I applied and I put on the show. I know how to manipulate people. I know how to talk a good game. I know how to tell people what they want to hear. And I was able to convince them that all of my moving around, by the time I graduated high school, I had gone to 13 different schools. Well, I painted the picture that I was great at meeting new people and I was very open and outgoing and that I would be a good fit for the foreign exchange. And those were true things. I am very good at meeting people and getting them to talk about themselves rather than me talking about myself. So I did spend 1 year in Germany on a foreign exchange, and that was an incredible blessing in my life. It got me out of her home and my host family. I I love them. I actually talked to my host mom last week. I sent her flowers for Christmas. but they treated me with respect. They had a 5-year-old daughter. I was allowed to play with her. I took her to the beach. I took her to the zoo. Um, as bad as TBFH's was, the opposite, the far opposite was as good as how my host family treated me. So, and if I hadn't lived with TBFH, I probably wouldn't have pushed as hard for the scholarship. I'm not sure that I would have had that experience with my host family if I hadn't gone through what I did with TBFH.
So that was such a captivating story. That 100% proud that you are free from that. Absolutely proud. The question that I came up with was if she, so this was someone that the foster care system approved her to essentially adopt you.
Not adopt, but house, feed, clothes.
Okay. So knowing all this that she did any lawfulness or any police get involved? Did she get arrested for the abuse? Are you aware if she continued to help care for students or for kids after
cou-
you had left?
Couple of things. So, the next door neighbor was an elderly woman. She had worked in the prison system for 30 years. She had retired from the prison system. And there is a police report from an incident at TBFH's house in it where the next door neighbor, she says prisoners are treated better than how that woman treats those girls. And that was absolutely true. Now, I don't know for a fact this next thing, but I did hear that a girl killed herself while living with TBFH, and I would believe it. I do know that she was no longer a foster parent in county, in my county where I live. But I looked up, I did a people search, and she now lives in a different county. And I reached out to the county and I made a report explaining everything that had happened. I never heard back from them, but I pray to God that she doesn't have access to any more children because it, everything that's happened to me in my life, everyone who's hurt me or failed me, I've been able to forgive, with the exception of TBFH. I I want to forgive her because it would free me, but there is still so much pain and so much anger around how she treated us. And I believe that for the most part, people are good and they try, people make the best decisions they can with the information they have at the time. These are kind of life mantras that I have, but I still can't forgive her. And I don't know if I ever will be able to. Um, and what actually how this started was so I was a ward of the state of Texas. Texas was my guardian, and when I was about 20, I wrote to Children's Protective Services and I asked for my case file. And they gave me this giant box with two huge stacks of papers. Basically, every document that was ever written about me, from counselors, psychologists, therapists, monthly reports from TBFH, everything. And I had tried to go through the documents, periodically, but it took me 3 decades. It wasn't until I was 40 years old that I could actually sit down and go through the documents. And I was so angry that I was reaching out to lawyers, to judges, to people higher up in Children's Protective Services, just sharing my story. And the feedback that I kept getting over and over was, it's too late to do anything about it. You can't punish her. The statute of limitations has run its course. And that's when I started writing. There wasn't, I will never have any sort of official recourse, or she will never be officially punished. But in my book, she knows who she is and she knows what she did. So, um, yeah, that's that's something that I've just had to accept, that she got away with it. So,
It just shows you how fucked up our system is. I mean, the fact that she is still hopefully not out there doing this to another kid is shocking to me. And to my listeners, I always keep every name censored. This is one of those times where I would want this bitch's name blasted on this podcast because sh- this motherfucker right here, sitting here having to hear all this stuff, can't even imagine. I've heard some personal stories from friends about abuse that they've endured. It's so gut wrenching to hear. And I really hope that if she's listening to this show, the person that you hurt for years is standing right here, has a book coming out, has is speaking her truth on this show, shows you how resilient she is. I I know a lot of people just from that one story who don't hear this, and they are going to be so inspired from that. 100% are going to be inspired by that. I've not gone through it, but it has touched me. Honestly, has touched me. I This is an audio show. I don't post video on here. I eventually would like to do video podcasts in the future, but if you could just see my face during this whole interview, it has been, my eyes have teared up. I've about cried on here. I've had shocked faces from what she has mentioned on here. This, to me, is going to help so many people. Just from that one story, it's going to help so many. And I do hope that, some people could question, well, why would you want to go and apologize and forgive her for stuff? I've heard people say the same thing, and it's not from abuse. It's from a bad parent. It's from bad, if someone, if you knew a friend that treated you so badly that ruined your life or something that you want to forgive them. I don't see that as a bad thing to do. I don't. And some people might have different opinions of, well, if they've done this awful stuff to you, they've treated you so bad, why would you want to give them a chance to forgive you? And to me, I said, well, it could help heal.
absolutely.
It's, to some people, it's a form of healing, and that they kind of, for some, it could be the icing on the cake and the way to wrap the box up and to put it set in stone. Now, to some people, they just want to heal just to move on, not have to think about it again. But for some, it's a way for them to heal, and it's a way for them to um, conquer something that they have been fighting for years and they've been scared to do it, and they get the courage to finally do it. So I don't see it as a odd thing to where you should forgive someone no matter how badly they treated you, if that is what someone recommended to you. Like if a therapist recommends that to you, do it.
Well, for me, it would it would lighten my soul if I could forgive her. I wouldn't carry the pain and the anger with me. And forgiveness, forgiving her for what she did to me would lessen the burden that I carry. And I know that to some people it would seem odd. Why would you possibly want to forgive someone who did that to you? But it's not about, you don't forgive someone for the other person. You forgive them for yourself, for your own mental well-being. So, and people, the one thing that I do get asked is, well, why didn't you tell anybody? Why did you stay? And there are two things to that. First, if I told my social worker or my therapist, they're going to go tell TBFH, and I live with TBFH, and that's not going to be a fun scenario. And the next thing was, there was no place else for me to go. Summer after fourth grade, my mother, brother, and I lived in a homeless shelter. We lived in the Salvation Army in downtown Houston. And if I had left TBFH's house, there were no foster homes. I would have gone to a girls' shelter. So I thought, as bad as TBFH was, it was still better than a girls' shelter. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. I don't know, but it's kind of the devil you know. And I knew her. And something that I am ashamed of to this day was as she exerted her power and control and um, ingrained our inferiority into us, I am ashamed to admit that I abused my power. Once I was the oldest girl, once I was the head girl, I abused that power and I treated the other girls the way that was treating me. And it was a way of making myself feel better about myself. But to the girls that I mistreated, I sincerely apologize. And I am ashamed, and I just pray that they can forgive me because I was so desperate. I had no self-esteem that when TBFH gave me uh, authority over the other girls, I did to them, not on the same scale, but I did it to them. You know the saying, hurt people hurt people? Well, I did. And it's, again, something I'm deeply ashamed of, but it it's what happened. It's the truth. And no, I've seen your face and it means so much to me that you're allowing me to share my story and and that you're empathizing. And I just, yeah, it's kind of blown me away. Thank you. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. And you made a great point earlier that I would like to add is that you did bring up the big question that I know all my listeners probably might ask too is if she was in such a bad situation, why didn't she tell anyone? Why didn't she leave? And that's usually the question I have. But for this situation, if sh if someone doesn't have a place to go and the only option that they have is to tell someone, you're they don't you won't know because what I've heard in the past is that therapists and especially would think for social workers, if foster care workers, if they hear a complaint or anything, if they notice or see something not right, whether it's bruising, if they see scratches, they will secretly report that. They'll do an investigation, and there's that possibility where they'll come to your house where you're staying at, and they will do an investigation. And you are not going to know what the person that's being accused of it is going to do to that child once they leave that house.
Yes.
You're not going to know. So to some people, and I would always say this, if you have a chance to go somewhere and you do have a chance to escape, I would recommend telling people. However, in this situation, if the only option for you to do is to tell someone, but you don't have anywhere else to go, you have to follow what you think would be best. And you have to just go with that. You can't, people are going to still have that opinion of, well, she still could have told somebody and they could have done something. You don't know that. You don't know. We don't know anything
We
about.
tried. We tried. My aunt, the one that came and picked me up every other weekend, we tried telling my social worker. I tried telling my therapist who came to the house every other week for therapy. And there weren't any other homes. And having already lived in a homeless shelter, I knew what life was going to be like at a girl's shelter. And I mean, th there were no choices. So I had to do the very best in a really horrifically bad situation. So I did the best I could, and
Yeah.
I got the hell out of there. I I I won a very prestigious scholarship and I went to Germany and I blossomed. I lost weight. I got my belly button pierced. I cut my hair off and bleached it platinum blonde. And I I truly came into myself. And when I got off the airplane, the flight back from Germany, and when I got off the airplane in Houston, my aunt and her son and the family that adopted my brother and my brother, they were all standing there. And I just walked right by them. And I recognized them, but they didn't even recognize me. It's like I was a different person. And I came back to them and they were shocked. They couldn't believe that it was me. So, I say that God has given me many trials and tribulations, but I have also received some truly incredible blessings in my life. So, um, for example, if you're awarded the state, if the state is your guardian, I think this is true for most states. You can go to university as long as it's a public state university, they will waive all of your tuition and fees. That's how I went to college, that and scholarships. But I didn't have to pay for college because the state of Texas was my guardian. So, I mean, that's foster care was horrific, but it also gave me opportunities. So, um, I'm I try to focus on the good, on the positive, and um, let the past be in the past.
And that's really all you can do, you know. And since then, I mean, you've blossomed so much. I can just hear from even before we recorded that your life has turned around. Who's been single-handedly the biggest inspiration for your life, and who's been there for you since day one and has helped you through this
Mm,
very difficult journey?
That's a tough question. My Aunt Rose, um, she's been through hell with me. My early 20s, I was very much an alcoholic, and all of the pain and the rage and the hurt that I normally repress deep inside me, when I drank, it would come out. And she came and got me from I don't know how many bars. She came to hospitals where I was left for dead on the road. A guy slipped me a roofie and he didn't know I was already on medication. And when he stripped me, he took all my clothes, he left me naked, he took my purse. And when the police arrived on the scene, they couldn't find a pulse initially. They thought I was dead. So my Aunt Rose has been through hell. But I also have my very best friend, and I will use his real name. His name is Joshua, and I have known him since eighth grade. When I moved in with the bitch from hell, I met him that semester, and we are friends to this day. And he's been amazing. So both of them have helped me. I mean, when I was hospitalized, psychiatric ward hospitalized for repeated suicide attempts, they were there. They came and got me. So, yeah, I've and with my Aunt Rose, oh, I was mean and ugly to her. I would scream at her, "You're not my mom. You can't tell me what to do." And I said it because I knew it hurt her. And now, and when I was about 23 or 24, I apologized to her. I sat down with her and I just said, "I am so sorry." And she accepted that and she understood. But oh man, it was rough. It was really rough. But I say that God didn't give me a mother and a father. God gave me two mothers. So,
Absolutely. And I know your daughter has had probably his questions about growing up, your childhood, as every kid probably wants to. Every kid always is like, well, what was life like when you grew up? Like, tell me a little bit about
mm-mm.
your story.
No, not at all. Not my daughter. She has asked me if I will be upset if she doesn't read my book. She doesn't want to know. She doesn't want to know what her mom went through. And when I pass, I am married, but the rights to my book will go to my daughter. But she doesn't I don't think she wants to see that hurt or that pain from me. And she asked me, "Mom, are you going to be upset if I don't read your book?" And I said, "No, not at all. I understand. I think it would be too painful for her." And she doesn't want to have those thoughts or that knowledge. And the life that I live now, if you had told me when I was 14 or 15 years old that I was going to have the life that I do today, I would have called you a liar. I would not have believed that I could have a life as blessed as the one that I do. But I do. I am truly, truly blessed. I have an amazing husband. My daughter is a pain in the rear. I love her to death. The apple did not fall far from the tree. She's just as stubborn as I am. I had to learn common sense. God bless her, so does she. Um, but yeah, I'm I couldn't be in a better position. And I kind of think that I had to go through all the bad and that this is maybe my reward for for surviving. And there were many suicide attempts, many. And I finally realized after the last one that God wasn't going to let me go until I had fulfilled my purpose on this planet. And that's what I believe. Um, Unfortunately, he didn't send a memo saying like what that purpose was. So, I'm winging it. I'm doing the best I can, but yeah, I uh, I know how blessed I am today, and I live a remarkable life that I just in my teenage years, I would have never imagined I'd have a life as good as this. So, and it's something that I am grateful for, and I do not take it for granted.
There's so many, you've touched on so many very difficult subjects, and I have to just applaud you for how well you can share your trauma as well. I've seen videos of people that can barely say a sentence without breaking down. I've seen people that hold signs up because it's so triggering. I think it takes a lot of strength and a lot of power to be able to tell your story. And you didn't get teary eyed one bit. You didn't break down and say, I stop. It just shows you how strong you are as a person to where you can say this. And this is probably just a scratch on the surface. I mean, there were other things that you have gone through that we have not discussed yet, but I just know from that story that you are a tough woman, that you, to me, have been the most impactful guest I've had on here. And I will kindly say
Wow,
that you've
thank
been
you.
the biggest voice on here. I mean, I could listen to this story, your story for hours and not say a damn thing. I was sitting here and I listened to every little thing and I was like paying attention the whole time because it was such a captivating thing. It I know someone out there, whether it's you've gone through the same thing she's been through, and I hope to God that you don't. I really pray that you've not endured but what this lady has gone through. But if you somehow have, this is who you should look up to. And this is who you need to
Mm.
listen to for inspiration to show that you can get through it and that you can fight through it. And I know that your daughter, even though she doesn't know any about your past, is so proud of you and shows you how strong she is. And I know she's going to look up to you so much. And I know even if your husband doesn't know anything about your past, I know he's proud of you too. And I know everyone, all my listeners here, even though they've only heard that one story, are so proud of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Noah. That means the world to me. My husband does know all the stories. Um, Thank you. Thank you. And the one thing I don't do is I don't compare traumas. Every person's trauma is unique and tragic for that person. And there is no comparing. Pain is pain. And there's no point to comparing. Um, because what people go through and the pain that they suffer is real and just as real for the next person, um, regardless of the specifics. So I make a point to never ever compare. So Thank you, Noah. Thank you very much. Oh God, you've touched my heart. So,
I was like, don't cry now. I was like, don't cry. It's so powerful. There's other stories that you've listed here that I'd like to know. However, I don't think I want to ask them because I think that story right there is so good that I might want you to come back for another
I would be
episode,
honored.
and I would more than happy to have you back on and share some more stories. eh, you know, to the to your comfortability, because I think every one of these stories that you have needs to be heard. And I could rant, and this could be like a 3 hour episode, and I know you're going to beat me to death. But listen, she is spilling her heart out, and as much as I like to know this bitch's name, as much as I'd like to know and to rail her up here, she's one of those people I'd be like, sit down and let me have like 2 hours. I'm reel her in. I could read her till she has no wig. Be like, her weave would be gone. I could read. And I hope that someone out there, I really hope that she gets her karma. And I'd be like, God, this is one thing that karma has to be come to her now because she needs to pay it. I really hope that she someday hopefully gets into some kind of trouble where she rots in a jail cell and does not see the light of day for the rest of her life. And it's one of those things I wish she goes through the same thing that she put you through. Honestly, and I don't wish that on anyone, but if someone treats a child like that, like pieces of shit, to where they're broken down like this, I don't have any remorse for them. I don't. I think it's cruel to what they can do to them. And as I always think, well, it kills me that some people are that cruel to others because you always hear, well, they had a really traumatizing childhood as well, and they take what they got from childhood and they grow up and they pass it on down. It's one of those moments where I wish that they could have broke that chain to where this happened to me, but I'm not going to become that person to this next generation.
What I did with my child. I broke the cycle. And I don't I don't want her punished. I hope that she learns what she did and that she has a reckoning, that she realizes the damage she did. And I hope that she becomes a better person. Because in my early 20s, I was not a good person. I would exploit men. I made very bad decisions. I used people. I manipulated people. And I say that for the first half of my life, I was not a good person. And the second half of my life, I'm trying to make up for it. So I hope that she has realized, has had a reckoning, that she knows the damage that she did and that she's actively working to to serve penance, to some way help more than she's hurt. That's my hope for her.
Kind of a question I had just gotten from
Sure.
people that during that time, even when you grew up as a kid, if you were around any school classmates or just friends that you've developed over the years, um, have they reached out to you now and have checked up on you, or did you ever tell? Which if I were you, I wouldn't tell anyone what I've endured. But to the people that have heard the story that you had just told from your past, did they have you had regular checkups from people just checking in, seeing how you were doing, or has it just
No.
been
When you go to 13 different schools, by the time you graduate from high school, I learned not to invest emotionally in relationships. That's why my friendship with Neil Murray is such a unique thing because I've known him since the eighth grade, and I tried to lose him. I wouldn't answer his letters, and he was like, "Bitch, you better write me back." Because of course, my exchange, we didn't have email or, text messaging. We
Right.
we had phone cards and letters,
Yeah.
um, which it's actually cool. He kept the letters that I wrote to him, and they're actually up on my website, along with my CPS case files and photographs. And yeah, anyone who wants to see that, just go to my website, unbrokencaldwell.com. And yeah, I've made it all visible. But no, I learned not to get emotionally invested because I would be moving in the next few months. Or if I was lucky, I got to stay at the same school for the school year. I mean, there were plenty of years where I went to two different schools in one year. So,
That would make sense to me if you knew that you would be constantly moving. I 100% do understand that, and I would agree. And even if you stayed there more than a year, if you move off, chances are they would forget
yeah.
to begin with. But I think one last question I want to end on is, how are you today? Knowing that you've gone through so much, how are you doing today?
Well, writing the book was hell, absolute hell.
Can imagine.
But I am done, and I am I am truly blessed. I am blessed. Um, I I couldn't ask for a better life. My husband's amazing. I love my daughter. She is turning into a powerful, respectable woman. And I, yeah, I love the life I have. I am so grateful to have the life that I do. And I am very privileged, and I do not take it for granted. So I'm doing amazing.
I'm so happy for you. I am.
Thank you.
I'm so
Thank you.
happy that you're doing so well and so great. This is one of the more miracle stories, and this is what happens. This is one of the more I got out of it, so can you kind of stories. I know some people might think it's impossible. This is an example of breaking out and being able to continue the life that you fully deserved, and that you get are surrounded by people that you are so respected by, that you are loved from, that you can look up to and be have an everlasting relationship even after they're gone. You know that they'll be with you for infinity until you're gone.
Yes.
And so and I would just say thank her on her behalf to her aunt Rose and her friend Neil. I think you two guys, if you ever listen to this, y'all have known a very strong, empowering woman that at times was difficult to deal with, but I know that y'all stayed by her side, and I bet y'all, if they're still here, are so proud of you. And I know from them that they are so happy to have you, and that they are, and if anyone else ever fucks with you, then they'll kick their ass. I know that for sure. I know 100% know that.
That is true, actually. Thank you so much, Noah. This has been an amazing experience. And yeah, uh, yeah, thank you.
You're more than welcome. And your book, Unbroken, Laugh Outside the Lines, please feel free to promote it and this promote your social media and website. I know you had mentioned the website, but feel free to mention it again, and just for people that want to follow you and just be a huge support system for you and keep on your journey and follow you, where all can they find you, and again, promote
So
everything that you got going on?
my website is Unbroken Caldwell. It's also my social handles. I'm on Facebook, Insta, and LinkedIn. Unbroken Caldwell, Caldwell. And yeah, my book, I am hoping for a launch date of October 7th, but you don't have to wait. You can go ahead and go to my website, sign up. You get the prologue in chapter one, and you can also pre-order from Amazon or Barnes and Noble or wherever. I have the links in the email you receive. So yeah.
And as I do for all my guests, I will put all of her links down in the description. I will put her website as well as links to her books for pre-order. I will put the Amazon Barnes and Noble as well as her website link down there. Social media I will put down there as well. Um, Adrienne, it's been such a great episode with you and an honor to have you on, share your story with you. Everything, all the trigger warnings that she had mentioned at the earlier stage is listed in the book, and I know we didn't get to it today, but maybe on that next episode we could dive a little more. But if in case we don't, everything that she said today, as well as additional stories, are in this book. So I highly, highly recommend you check out this book. And I'm getting, I'm getting emotional myself. I'm getting choked up. I'm like, but you are so strong, and I know. And I'm so proud of you. Honestly, I am proud that you have made it out and you have done so well. Um, Congrats on everything going on. Releasing a book is huge, 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 huge. And I know that everyone, your close family and friends are so proud. And I know all my listeners are going to be so happy to know that you're here today, that sitting down and recording this, that you survived it, and that all this is in the past, and that it will not come back and haunt you again. And I know writing that book had to be so hard, and I have to give you so much strength for that. I've had some other guests come on here and say that the book writing process is hard, and hear from stories like this, I bet you it is. And you
It
are
was
just
hell. It was hell. It's taken me 4 years and it was brutal. But yeah, thank you so much. And it would be an honor and a privilege to come back and and be on your show again and share some more stories. I would love that.
well, to all my listeners, as I mentioned, I'll put off her links down there in the description box for you to follow. To be updated about other episodes as well as follow-up episode with her. Feel free to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. It's Lethal Venom Podcast on there, and Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as Noah's Podcast on there. You'll get updates about upcoming episodes as well as teasers of episodes that are coming and just some other stuff as well. So feel free to follow those. You can catch Lethal Venom wherever you get your podcast from, on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Pandora. I mean, it's technically wherever you get podcasts from, it's there. Um, so feel free to follow the podcast on there to get updates when this episode and future episodes will be released. A huge thank you to my guest Adrienne for coming on today, and to my listeners, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Y'all have a great rest of your day and week, and y'all stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Lethal Venom.